I stepped onto the cruise ship with my suitcase trailing behind me and a mix of dread and cautious hope gnawing in my stomach. The sea breeze hit my face, salty and fresh, but it wasn't enough to wash away the sinking feeling that had settled in me since the moment I agreed to come on this so-called family trip. A young crew member with a clipboard smiled at me and asked for my name. After a few taps, he gestured for me to follow him. I trailed behind him down a narrow corridor that grew more industrial with every step. The polished luxury gave way to gray metal and exposed piping until we stopped in front of a door labeled storage. "This is your cabin," he chirped, unlocking the door. I blinked at him, certain he was joking. But when I stepped inside, my heart dropped. It was a closet. Literally. There were shelves with brooms and extra towels shoved to one side. A narrow cot had been squeezed in where a mop bucket used to be. There was a dim bulb overhead and a tiny vent that wheezed like it was dying. Before I could protest, he gave me a polite nod and disappeared down the hallway. I stood there in disbelief, surrounded by mop handles and bleach. It didn't take long for the truth to hit me like a punch to the stomach. This was intentional. This had Kylie written all over it. She always had a way of making her cruelty look like an accident. She'd mastered that balance of fake kindness and barely veiled disdain years ago. Even as kids, she'd find a way to make me feel small, and worse, make everyone else laugh while she did it. I'd hoped adulthood might have dulled her edges, but clearly I was wrong. At dinner, the whole family sat around a massive table on the top deck. Kylie was glowing in a deep emerald dress, the kind that didn't just say, "I'm important," but screamed it. She welcomed me like a queen welcoming a stray dog, arms outstretched, voice dripping with sweetness that made my teeth hurt. "How's your room, sweetheart?" she asked with a smug smile tugging at her lips. "Hope it's cozy." The others chuckled, most of them too spineless to challenge her. My brother Caleb offered a sympathetic glance, but said nothing. Dad looked at his wine like it had answers. Mom smiled, tight-lipped and exhausted. The conversation that night was like being surrounded by snakes disguised as swans. Compliments that were insults, concern that was judgment. Kylie led the charge, of course, throwing out little jabs about my job, my clothes, even my hair, all coded in that syrupy tone that made it hard to call her out. Back in the closet that night, I found a neon pink sticky note on my pillow. It read, "Don't forget your mop duty, Cinderella." No signature, but I didn't need one. I crumpled it in my fist and stared at the tiny vent until I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. This wasn't just some mix-up. This was war, and Kylie had made the first move. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something metal clattering in the hallway and the faint scent of lemon disinfectant. My back ached from the stiff cot, and my pillow still bore the faint crease where I'd crushed that sticky note in my sleep. I reached for my phone, half expecting nothing but spam and silence. Instead, there was a new message from an unknown number. "Hi Heidi, this is Ruby, the concierge. Just wanted to say if you need anything, let me know. I'm around." Something about it felt intentional, thoughtful. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, debating. Then I typed back, "Hey Ruby, actually yeah, I might. I'm not here to play nice, not anymore." It was a small act, but hitting send made something shift in me. Maybe I couldn't control where I slept, but I could control how I showed up. I wasn't here to play victim. I had bigger things to think about. I pulled out my laptop, pushed a stack of folded towels off the one small shelf, and got to work. My VP presentation was in 5 days, the day after we docked. The pitch could change everything: new role, new pay, new city. I'd been building it quietly, waiting for the right moment to show the board what I could do. This cruise was supposed to be a small break before that day. Kylie had thought otherwise. I worked through the morning, blocking out the distant thrum of music and laughter. Around noon, I got a notification. My sister had posted a photo, all of them lined up on deck, sunglasses on, smiling into the sun. I wasn't in it. Neither were any of the other 5 photos she uploaded. I scrolled slowly, each swipe like a slap. Poolside drinks, matching outfits, a spa day, #family first in a caption like some cruel joke. They hadn't even told me where they were going, and judging by the comments, no one had noticed I was missing. It wasn't just about forgetting me. This was targeted. A slow erasure. Kylie knew how optics worked. She was staging the trip to make it look like I didn't belong. If someone looked from the outside, they'd assume I hadn't come at all. That was when it hit me. This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't thoughtlessness. It was a strategy. She wanted me isolated, invisible, and just bitter enough to fall apart. She wanted to derail me before I even got to my moment. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I sat back, stared at the flickering overhead bulb, and let the humiliation settle into something harder. Not quite rage, but close. Something focused. I picked up my phone again and texted Ruby. I'll need a place to rehearse later. Somewhere private. And maybe something to wear. Something that doesn't say janitor. Her reply came fast. Got you. Let's do this. I returned to my closet cabin that evening with a flicker of hope in my chest. The afternoon with Ruby had gone better than I expected. She'd snuck me into a quiet staff lounge with decent lighting and better Wi-Fi. I'd gotten through 2 full rehearsal rounds of my presentation. For the first time since stepping on board, I'd felt like myself again. Focused, capable, steady. That feeling evaporated the second I opened the door. The sink was full. Water sloshed just below the rim, and floating inside it, my laptop. Completely submerged. I froze, staring at it as droplets clung to the edges of the screen and beads of salt water shimmered on the keyboard like poison. My mouth went dry. My hands shook. It wasn't an accident. My charger was still plugged in. Someone had done this. I didn't even have time to process before Kylie appeared in the doorway behind me. Heard some weird beeping down here, she said, stepping in like she owned the place. Her eyes swept over the scene, widening just enough to pass as concern. Oh no. That looks bad. Did you forget to turn the sink off? I looked at her. The fake innocence. The syrupy tone. The wide eyes she wore like theater makeup. It made my skin crawl. No, I said flatly. She blinked, lips parting as if expecting a different reaction. Yikes. I mean, that sucks. Especially with that big work thing you were doing. Maybe next time, don't leave your stuff lying around. She didn't wait for a response before turning and strutting off, her sandals clapping cheerfully against the floor. My throat tightened as I pulled the laptop out with trembling hands. It dripped onto the tile, lifeless and ruined. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I swiped to read it, expecting Ruby. But this one was different. She told him to do it. Said if he dunked it, she'd cover his bar tab all week. He laughed. Nate did it. Thought you should know. No name. No explanation. Just that. I stared at the message as the pieces snapped together. Kylie and Nate, my cousin, who'd always followed her around like a puppy. Of course. I could picture them laughing after it happened. Could hear Kylie saying I probably had it coming. It hurt. Not just the betrayal, but the reminder of how little I mattered to them. How easy it was to wreck my one shot and walk away without blinking. I felt the grief rising, sharp and hot. And then I grabbed my phone and texted Ruby again. It's gone. Laptop's fried. I think it was them. A pause. Then, can you come to my office? I've got something for you. And you might not be out of options. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Ruby in a room filled with screens and neatly stacked folders. She handed me a hot drink and motioned to a desktop computer already booting up. I saw you working in Google Drive, she said simply. Let's see what we can recover. And just like that, the pieces weren't lost. Not yet. The ship rocked gently beneath me as I sat in Ruby's office, the soft hum of the computer and the faint scent of coffee keeping me tethered to the moment. My eyes burned from staring at the screen too long, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. If anything, the sabotage had sharpened something in me. Ruby stayed close, checking in, offering quiet support and snacks I didn't realize I needed until she handed them over. The files from my original pitch were mostly intact. Thank God for autosave and the cloud. I rebuilt what was broken, polished what needed sharpening, and added a new section that hadn't existed before, a contingency strategy for client crises. Fitting, considering my own. By 4 a.m. it was done. My backup slides were cleaner, leaner, and bolder than the original. I leaned back in the chair and exhaled, exhaustion crashing into me all at once. But beneath it, a pulse of satisfaction beat steadily in my chest. They hadn't broken me. They'd tried. But they failed. The final confirmation came later that morning. I was passing by the main lounge on my way to get coffee when I heard Kylie's voice behind me. I had to go through 3 managers to reserve that broom closet, she was bragging to someone I didn't recognize. Had to make it look like a booking error. Worth it though. She's been in there all week. I stopped. My jaw tightened. So it had all been a setup. Pre-booked. Coordinated. She hadn't just wanted to humiliate me. She'd wanted to bury me. I didn't say a word. Just kept walking. By noon, I was back in Ruby's office, hair pulled back, blazer pressed, nerves humming under my skin like static. She'd secured a quiet satellite-enabled room and triple-checked the connection. I could hear the muffled sound of poolside laughter somewhere above us as she closed the door behind her. My company's logo glowed on the screen. Then came the faces, board members, partners, and at the center, my mentor, Ava Chin. Calm, sharp-eyed, and always 2 steps ahead of everyone. I launched into my pitch, clear and steady. I knew my data. I knew the market. And most of all, I knew the story I was telling, how unpredictability could be turned into strength, how agility was more valuable than perfection. I let the fire in my chest bleed into my words, not angry, but focused. Fierce. When I finished, there was a pause. Then Ava leaned forward and smiled. Heidi, that was exceptional. And under the circumstances, even more impressive. She glanced at someone off-screen, then back at me. I'd like to formally offer you the VP role. And I'd like you to take the lead on our upcoming account with Marabella Cruises. You've demonstrated you know how to navigate storms. I smiled. For the first time in days, it reached my eyes. Thank you. I'm ready. And I was. I didn't say a word to anyone. No announcement, no goodbye to the closet. Just packed my things into a single bag and followed Ruby down a private corridor with no cameras and no questions. The penthouse suite was twice the size of Kylie's cabin and came with a balcony that wrapped around the stern. Plush robes, fresh orchids, and a stocked minibar greeted me like royalty. Ruby handed me a key card and grinned. Compliments of Marabella Cruises, she said. They heard their newest VP might need a little peace. That evening, I stood on the balcony, drink in hand, and watched the pool deck below. Kylie and Nate were near the bar, pacing in sharp, panicked bursts. Nate was flapping his arms like an over-caffeinated pigeon. Kylie's phone was pressed to her ear, then yanked away in frustration. She slammed it onto the bar. The suite had a perfect view. I leaned on the railing, the breeze brushing against my face like applause. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Ruby had sent a file. Footage from the staff hallway, time-stamped. Thought you'd want this. I opened the video and hit play. The quality was clear enough to capture everything. Nate slipping into my room, holding a towel. The angle didn't show the sink, but the timeline was undeniable. 30 seconds later, he emerged, empty-handed and smirking. Kylie was waiting just down the corridor. He said something. She laughed. I saved the video. Did I plan to use it? Not yet. But having it gave me leverage. And power had a funny way of softening old wounds. I didn't go scorched earth. That would have been too easy, too obvious. I went quiet. Strategic. First, I had Ruby flag Kylie's name in the system. Maintenance glitch, we labeled it. Her dinner reservations disappeared. Her yoga class slot was mysteriously double-booked. When she tried to schedule a massage, she found herself booted to a waitlist, then magically rebooked for a couple's treatment with Nate. The receptionist apologized profusely. Must have been a system hiccup. Her room service? Suddenly forgot the almond milk she demanded. Her dry cleaning? Misplaced for 48 hours. Small things. Death by 1,000 minor inconveniences. I never said a word to her. Didn't look in her direction at dinner or pass her in the hallway. I existed one floor above her, always out of reach, always a few steps ahead. And it drove her mad. I saw it in the way she checked her phone every 5 minutes, her eyes scanning for something, attention, control, maybe a sign that I was still beneath her. But I wasn't. Not anymore. For once, Kylie was on the outside, looking up. And I wasn't just surviving. I was rising. The unraveling started slowly, then all at once. Kylie had built her online persona like a house of mirrors. All angles, all illusion. Perfect filters, carefully staged selfies, and fake partnerships she bragged about but never disclosed properly. Her feed was a shrine to a life she didn't live, and for years, no one questioned it. Until now. With my new corporate credentials, I'd gained access to Maribella's PR systems. One of my first actions as VP was to forward a carefully detailed report, complete with screen recordings, screenshots, and timestamps, to the legal department. Kylie had tagged Maribella Cruises in a dozen posts as if they'd paid her to promote them. They hadn't. She was using their name, logo, and luxury amenities to boost her brand, all without permission, all without proper disclosure. I didn't need to embellish. I just gave the truth a little nudge in the right direction. 2 days later, Maribella's official Instagram quietly unfollowed her. Her brand partner, links started vanishing. An email from the FTC's flagged submissions system went out. It was only a matter of time now. Kylie must have sensed something shifting. Her posts started getting desperate, more hashtags, more sponsored-sounding captions. Then the comments turned. People started asking for proof. Wait, are you working with them? Why didn't you disclose this as an ad? Pretty sure this is against FTC rules. I was sipping tea on the penthouse balcony when she snapped. The door slammed open. She stormed into my suite without knocking, wild-eyed and loud, her phone clenched in one fist like a weapon. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" she hissed. "You've been behind this, I know it. What did you do?" I didn't flinch. I set my cup down slowly and met her glare with something steadier than anger. Silence. First, my cabin bookings start glitching, now brands are dropping me, and I'm getting emails about compliance violations? That's you. Admit it. I stood up. Calm. Centered. Not afraid of her anymore. "You broke the law," I said quietly. "You used a trademark without permission. You lied to your followers. You staged fake sponsorships. If you're facing consequences now, that's not sabotage. That's accountability." Her mouth fell open. "I've built my audience for years. You have no idea what this could do to me." I took a step forward, slowly. "You destroyed my laptop. You tried to ruin my career. And you smiled while doing it. I'm not sorry you're uncomfortable. I'm just surprised it took this long." She looked like she might scream. Instead, I picked up the suite's landline and dialed. "Hi, this is Heidi Bishop in 9A. I have someone in my room who isn't a guest here. Can you send security, please?" She went pale at the word security. "You wouldn't." I already did. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to gloat. I just stood tall, exactly where I belonged. Kylie backed away, muttering something under her breath, and stormed out, slamming the door like a child who'd finally been told no. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of her. I was done. And she knew it. Dinner was scheduled for 7 p.m. on the upper deck, the kind with white tablecloths, glowing lanterns, and a view of the open sea that was supposed to feel magical. It didn't. Not for me. Not anymore. But I showed up. Not in quiet retreat or awkward hesitation. I walked in early, took the seat at the head of the table, and waited. When the others arrived, they hesitated. Kylie's eyes narrowed when she saw me in her usual spot. Nate blinked like he wasn't sure if he should sit beside her or somewhere safer. They took their seats. Conversation buzzed at first, all surface level and smiling.
Dad asked about wine.
Mom commented on the sunset. Kylie made some strange joke about influencer trolls. No one laughed. I let it sit for a moment, then tapped my glass once. The sound rang out, soft but sharp. I thought tonight would be a good time to talk. Talk. All eyes turned to me. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table, the screen facing up. One tap. A silent video started to play, grainy security footage of a hallway, time-stamped and clear. Nate is slipping into my cabin. Kylie was waiting just beyond the frame. Their laughter echoed faintly. At first, no one spoke. Then Mom leaned in, squinting. "Is that from the ship?" "Yes," I said. "That's Nate putting my laptop in the sink. The same one I needed for a career-defining presentation. The same one Kylie told him to destroy." Nate's face drained of color. It wasn't like that. She promised to cover your bar tab. You laughed. You did it." I turned to Kylie. "You staged the cabin mistake. You left the note. You erased me from the trip. And this time, you didn't get away with it." Kylie's face twitched. "You're being dramatic. We were just messing around." "No." I cut in, voice steady. "You've spent our entire lives playing games at my expense. Tearing me down in front of people, twisting the story to make it look like I was the problem. Every time I succeeded, you found a way to mock it. Every time I struggled, you turned it into a joke. I just never had the proof." Mom sat forward, eyes glassy. "Is all of this true?" Kylie opened her mouth, then shut it. Her defenses cracked, just a flicker, but it was enough. "You don't understand what it's been like. She always wanted to be the victim. I was just trying to..." "To what?" I said quietly. "Keep the spotlight? Stay on top. You don't have to try so hard to make people love you. You just have to stop hurting the ones who already did." The silence that followed was deeper than anything I'd felt in years. Kylie stood, shaking slightly. "This is insane. You're all turning on me." No one answered. Not even Nate. She stared at us like she didn't recognize a single face at the table, then turned and walked away, heels clicking fast across the deck, the sound fading into the open air. Nate looked down at his plate, then slowly over at me. "I didn't know it was that deep," he said. "I thought it was just a prank." "It never was," I said. "But now you do." And finally, he nodded. The final night of the cruise brought the gala, black tie, champagne flutes, strings of lights draped like starlight across the deck. It was elegant, cinematic, the kind of evening Kylie used to imagine herself at the center of. But tonight, that center belonged to me. As Marabella Cruises' new executive representative, I stood by the grand staircase in a sleek navy gown, welcoming partners, guests, and executives who nodded with a mix of recognition and curiosity. My name was in the event program. My title, newly minted, was on the banners near the ballroom entrance. People whispered as they passed. "That's her, right? The one who got promoted during the trip. Didn't she replace someone? I heard she exposed a fake influencer this week. Something about sabotage." Let them talk. I didn't need to explain. The truth had already done its job. Kylie wasn't there. Word had spread that she'd packed her bags the night before and disembarked early, citing a personal emergency. Her Instagram had gone unusually quiet. The last post was a blurred sunset with a vague caption about cutting toxicity. No one believed it. I was sipping champagne and listening to a charming couple from Barcelona describe their honeymoon when someone cleared his throat nearby.
"Nate."
He looked different, less smug, more aware of himself. Like he'd spent a few days sitting with his reflection and didn't entirely like what he saw. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. "Just for a minute?" I nodded and followed him to a quieter corner near the bar. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," he said, not rushing the words. "Really? I didn't get it. I didn't see what she was doing. I thought it was just Kylie being Kylie. But watching you handle everything, watching her implode, I realized I backed the wrong person for a long time."
I didn't say anything.
Just waited. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone and showed me a rough draft of a resume. "I'm applying to a few marketing agencies. Trying to get my life sorted. Would you maybe take a look? I could use real feedback." I took the phone and scanned it briefly. "You've got potential," I said. "But cut the fluff.
Keep it honest."
No exaggeration." He nodded. "Fair." Then he added, quieter, "Thank you for not destroying me too." I just gave a small, measured smile. Not my style. Later that night, my parents found me standing near the railing, watching the moonlight glitter across the ocean. Mom stepped beside me first, then Dad, both quiet for a moment before she finally spoke. "We didn't see it. Or maybe we didn't want to. But I'm sorry, Heidi. For not listening. For not protecting you. You were telling the truth all along." Dad nodded slowly, eyes a little red around the edges. "We're proud of you. And if you're willing, we'd like a chance to earn our way back." I looked at them. Not with resentment, not anymore, but with clarity. "Okay," I said. "But it starts with listening." And this time they did. The night ended where it always should have begun, at the top. I sat barefoot on the velvet chaise in the penthouse suite, a flute of champagne in one hand, soft music playing in the background. The balcony doors open to the breeze. The space was quiet but alive, glowing with warm light and the low hum of the ship preparing for its grand finale. I had the whole suite to myself, and this time, not because someone pushed me aside, but because I'd earned it. Downstairs, the gala was winding down. I'd made my rounds, shaken hands, accepted compliments with practiced ease, and now I was here, celebrating not with noise, but with peace. There was a knock at the door. I didn't answer. A moment passed. Then another knock, sharper this time. A voice followed, muffled but unmistakable. "Kylie." "Heidi, I just want to talk," she said. "Just 2 minutes. Please." I stayed seated. She didn't have access anymore. Ruby made sure of that. Her key cards were void. Her name was removed from every preferred list. She could knock all she wanted, but she wasn't getting back in. Eventually, the knocking stopped. Her footsteps faded.
It was poetic.
The suite she once thought belonged to her. Now she couldn't even step inside. I walked to the balcony and leaned on the railing, the sea stretching out dark and endless. For the first time in a long time, I felt the stillness of something truly settled inside me. Not a victory exactly. Something quieter.
Deeper.
Resilience. I had survived the petty sabotage, the decades of being underestimated, erased, and talked over. I'd faced the person who tried to break me and stayed standing. But the real win wasn't revenge. It wasn't the suite or the title. It was knowing who I was now, someone no longer trying to belong in a family that only ever offered her scraps. Someone who had found her voice and refused to lower it for anyone's comfort. Behind me, I heard the door open. Ruby stepped in briefly. "Fireworks in 10, she said with a smile. "Thought you might want the best view." I nodded. "Send them up. All of them." 10 minutes later, my family gathered with me on the balcony, Mom, Dad, Caleb, even Nate, standing just a little apart but present. They said nothing about the suite. No comments about the room, or the view, or Kylie's absence. Just a quiet awe as the first fireworks soared into the sky and burst into a golden bloom over the ocean. I watched them watching, not with bitterness, but with the clarity of someone who had nothing left to prove. We stood together in the place Kylie once claimed as hers, and not one of them questioned why I belonged there. Because they knew. I tilted my head back as a second firework lit up the night. Sometimes the best revenge is just becoming the woman they swore you'd never be.